Hi friends, this is part 2 of our mixed level 3 yoga session. More Vinyasa Krama, a bit alignment based, and just some varieties of pigeon pose. So you can see I have a chair and some blocks and a blanket. Pull up whatever you might like to use as a prop, and let's practice. We'll begin standing. You're also welcome to have a seat in your chair. I just ask that if you're in your chair, you come forward to the edge so that your feet can truly root and connect below you. And you know your feet might like a wide stance, a hips width, even a sits bones width, or completely together, up to you. And just notice for a moment where you are in space. And find your breathing. Maybe allowing your hands to guide you to find the breath and find your balance. Touch base with your roots. And maybe find Hakini Mudra for a moment to integrate it all. You could press a little more into the fingertips if you like. And bringing the arms forward and up or out and up, fingers interlace, palms to the sky is our Vinyasa Krama warm up. And then as you tilt the chin, bending your elbows. And this can be done from your seat, from a standing position. You can even do this from the edge or the side of your bed if you find yourself there. Finding your breathing. My palms are behind my head, however, they are facing the ceiling, so they're not pressing. My palms are not pressing into the back of my head. My chin is tilted. And then lifting the chin a bit, extending the arms and releasing. You're welcome to move out and up or forward and up with the arms, fingers interlace, palms to the sky, and we'll bow halfway forward, taking on the shape of numeral 7. Pressing through the palms, releasing through the seat, and finding your arms out to the side and then overhead. And finding your breathing. And one more like that. Fingers interlace, palms press, extending, releasing, finding your breathing. Out and up with the arms or forward and up. Fingers interlace, palms to sky. And then let's take the upper body to one side, finding your breathing. You're welcome to stay here gazing to the side or gazing up and behind. You might also like to bow over. And as you bow, you'll find where you're comfortable for your hands to be. If possible, keep the fingers interlaced. Maybe find something to press into, maybe not. And then as you press down, lifting up and taking it to the other side, finding your breathing. Again, you might stay here on this side. You could gaze out to the side, you could gaze up and behind, or you might bow over the second side. Coming up when you feel complete, returning center, and let's take it through our sun salutations. So finding our way to the top of mat so we have the length of mat to work with. Of course, you can improvise from your bedside or your chair as you wish. Tadasana, mountain. Raising the heels, finding your extended mountain, finding your breathing. Taking it to a chair pose, a half squat, or a full squat as you wish. Ardha Utkatasana, perhaps your power arms. Maybe a bit of twisting and turning to welcome the springtime energy. Coming center, fingertips release to the toe tips. You could step one foot back at a time, or you could hop to your plank. Of course, if you're with your chair, you could come out, hold the seat of your chair, and create a plank where you're lifted up a bit higher. Slow motion, Chaturanga Dandasana, to the earth, finding your way through and forward to your variation of Sphinx pose or Cobra pose or up dog as you practice. Rolling over the toes or bending the knees to take it back to child's pose, puppy dog, down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, any of that makes sense to you. And perhaps giving yourself a moment or two to walk it out a bit. Perhaps giving yourself a moment or two to shake it out a bit, empty out the answers, the yeses, the nos, the maybes, the would'ves, the should'ves, the could'ves. There they all go, off to the compost pile. And maybe taking a turbo dog. So if we lift both heels, bend both knees, and allow the tail to point a bit, then you choose. You could gaze to your knees, you could gaze to your toes and your ankles and see everything in alignment. You might even take a moment to gaze toward the navel center, a different release for the neck, almost that Jalandhara Bandha, the chin lock there. And then as you gaze to the thumbs, lots of steps forward, 2 steps forward. Maybe give those elbows a little squeeze in. You can even hop toward the top of your mat and find your half fold. And some of us practice a full fold, some stay with the half. Maybe you'll have your index and middle finger grab the big toe. Thumbs can come on top for your full fold if that's what you're practicing. And then coming up in steps and finding your reverse swan dive or rolling up. We really have lots of options that we practice, and it's good to find what we need in this moment. Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. Some say Surya Namaskara, so Surya is in the sun, and our salutations, of course, finding your breathing. Making your way to the half or full squat as you wish. Fingertips to the toe tips, stepping or hopping to your plank, maybe creating that slow motion, Chaturanga Dandasana, and making your way through and forward to the Bhujangasana, or if you want to lift the knees, you can create your Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, your up dog. Rolling over toes, bending through knees, finding your child's pose, your puppy dog, your down dog, as you wish. And this time in the down dog, let's lift one foot up. Maybe take a moment in the half dog where you can even peek underneath you, see the toes reaching down the heel, pressing back, and then those tippy toes can lift up, and we'll bring that knee underneath us to guide it toward your thumb for one of the pigeon pose variations. So I have some blocks next to me, and I will prop under my seat. You're welcome to have a roll of blanket or towel if that suits you. And remember, the front foot might feel more comfortable closer to your hip, or I'm wiggling this front foot out a bit to see how that feels for my balance. Finding your breathing. Actually, I think this foot wants to be a little closer. Maybe finding your pigeon wings. Releasing and finding your way down if that's what you're practicing today. And you can prop up or you can come a bit lower. And of course you can move all the way to the floor. You could practice with the back toes lifting and the knee lifting. You can release the prop that's under your seat if you like, finding your breathing. And then heading on back up, maybe you'll see about bending that back knee, and you could practice reaching a matching hand for the ankle or foot. You can always have a block under the hand that's staying down to anchor you. You can see about the opposite hand. You can find your queen or king pigeon, or sometimes we call this the mermaid pose, where we're starting to bring the foot closer to the upper body. You can also hook your ankle or foot with a block, a belt, the other B prop. Maybe a rolled up towel if you don't have a belt, or an old tie, something that you might have around the house. Improvise. And then as we release the back leg, let's bring that front seat down that's propped, and let's bring this back leg forward. And you might take a seated sage. So I have a leg in front of me and a leg to the side. Or you might find what some call double pigeon or fire logs. It's kind of a nice, fun name for the pose, where you're now stacking ankle to knee and knee to ankle. So we want this posture, if possible, to be quite different from your cross-legged pose that sometimes we start our practice in or end our practice in. So quite different. So nice to see that sunshine. Finding your breathing. You can always fill up the space between your ankle and knee, and or you can bow forward. And then fingers interlace, palms press. We'll come up and release, and maybe gently unwind your fire log legs, and perhaps take the windshield wiper, the hip release for a moment or two. And you can always bring the knees and feet together, or sometimes a little more space is helpful. And then let's make our way to the down dog, and maybe the turbo dog, as we like to say, bending knees, lifting heels, bending elbows, pulling elbows in a bit, lots of steps, 2 steps, or a hop to the top for your half fold, followed by your full. Coming up in steps, finding reverse swan dive. Some people like to roll it on up as if you're stacking one vertebra at a time. Finding your way, your path, your journey. Surya Namaskar, sun salutation, moving with your breathing. Mountain pose, Tadasana. Chair pose, Ardha Utkatasana or the full Utkatasana. Fingertips to toe tips, a step or a hop to your plank, moving almost to the earth and then through those shoulders to your cobra or up dog, rolling over the toes or bending through the knees to your down dog. Other heel lifting, foot lifting for the half dog, and then the tippy toes reaching up, noticing where the hips are compared to the mat, bringing that top knee forward and under to find your pigeon pose on the other side. Setting up however it suits you. Remembering always options. Maybe finding your pigeon wings. Remembering this front foot has an option to stay close, or sometimes we bring the foot out to the side a bit more, and of course you can bow forward as you wish. Finding your breathing. Remembering you might like to tuck your back toes under and lift the knee. And as you're ready to head on up, the back knee might bend. Sometimes we like a bit of an anchor system underneath us as we play with what works. Maybe the matching hand to the ankle or foot. Perhaps the opposite hand. Maybe both hands. Remember, if you want to wrap your belt or whichever you have at home around your ankle or foot, you're welcome to. And then releasing, and we'll bring this back leg around it so you can see the seated sage on the other side, where I'll keep one leg shin in front and one shin to the side. And this may be your hip opener for this evening, or you can bring the side ankle up on top of the bottom knee, and sometimes this bottom foot likes to scooch close, so if you can, encourage it to move a bit away from you. And let's see about if you want to fill the space, if there is space between the knee and the ankle, if you want to extend, if you'd like to bow forward. Fingers interlace, palms press, and releasing. And as we undo this time, let's grab the chair, just in case you want to see what the pigeon pose could be like if you're in a chair for a long period of time. You can give yourself a moment of this. If you need a permission slip at work, just email me and I'll write you one. So maybe you'll hold the outer edges of the chair. You could take a half fold or a puppy dog for a moment. And then as you're ready, we'll bring one knee forward. So I'll switch it up. So I'm working with the other side again. And your back leg is basically in a high lunge, and you may just have to play with the chair to situate your front foot and your knee a bit and see how that is for you. Just a different way to move into our pigeon pose, where you could find your wings if you like. And of course you could bow forward using the chair if that suits you. If not, no worries. I feel like the back of the chair is pressing into some good pressure points under the shoulder area and the underarm area. And then coming up, and let's take it back to the half fold again. And we'll see what happens on the other side. So the other knee coming forward. And here you'll see that you can, of course, keep the foot closer to your hip. Sometimes we even have the heel press into the lower torso, or that foot can move away from you a bit. And the back toes can tuck, finding your pigeon pose on the other side. Bowing if you like. I kind of have my hands one on top of the other to make a little cushion for my chin, but sometimes it feels good to release all of that too. And when you're ready, we'll come up and out and take it back to the half fold. And you're welcome to find a goddess squat in your chair or holding the chair for balance sake. Of course, you can release and create that on your own. Elbows might like to be above the knees or find their way to the inner edges of the knees. Palms might press. And then we'll make our way down to the mat. You might like your chair nearby in case we practice legs up the chair at the end. And let's do at least one more variation of pigeon pose supine now on the back. So really there's all different ways to come into the posture. If you ever find that one way isn't suiting you, if you can, give yourself permission to experiment a bit. So we'll come on down. Of course, we'll know that there's safe space for us to do that in. And as you arrive, maybe take a moment to connect with Earth and find your breathing. And then giving one knee a hug in. Of course, you can hold behind the upper leg on top of the low leg. You can even really give it a good hug if that makes sense for you. And then the ankle places above the other knee. And this may be just right for you. You could also try this against the wall or against your bed. If you're nearby your bed or your chair, you could lift the other foot up and press that foot into whichever is in front of you. You could lift the foot and bring the hands behind that upper leg, finding your breathing. You could play with flexed feet. You could relax your feet and notice if you have a different kind of space to work with, to hug in. Your hands, your fingers could reach up over the top knee. All good options. You could give it all a really big hug in, if that makes sense for you. And then as you release the hands, maybe you'll take the legs just as they are to one side of the body, so you receive a bit of a spinal twist, and you could rest this other foot now. And then coming center, we'll take it to the other side. And then coming center, we'll switch legs. So if you want to take a moment and settle again, connect with Earth. She's always holding us, even when she's shaking here in New Jersey. Other knee receives a hug in, as you like, behind the back of the upper leg, on top of the low leg, or even that really big hug in, and then the ankle places above the knee. And if you want to set up against the wall or a bit of furniture that stays in place, you could press that front foot into something or not. You can hold the leg that's in front of you. You can play with your foot placement, flexed or pointed. You can play with the hug. Finding your breathing. Maybe you'll bring the fingers over that top knee. Maybe you'll give it all a giant hug. And then releasing, and as you wish, keeping the legs as they are and inviting a spinal twist. So both bent knees go to one side, and you'll notice if your head and neck want to stay centered, maybe pressing into the top of the back of your head, or of course you can turn your head. And then bringing that center, and we'll take it to the other side. And then bringing it center, and let's give it all a giant hug in. All those options, behind upper legs, on top of low legs, or that really big hug in. And then releasing, grip a bit, head rest, and 2 more giant squeezes when you're ready. And 1 more. And moving into your variation of constructive rest, maybe you'll grab that chair and pull it on in, knowing that when we invite our legs, feet above the heart. Typically, it's a good idea for cardiovascular system, for circulation. And of course, you can take any time you need to prop the neck, the head, the back, to cover up, to layer up. Finding your breathing. And maybe even releasing the focus on the breath for a moment or two here. You're welcome to turn the video off and have your own constructive rest time if that suits you better. And for the sake of YouTube land, I'm going to move out of constructive rest to do a bit of breath work and some seed sounds. But you're welcome to stay as long as you want or need. So when you're feeling ready to return, awakening, extending as it suits you. Maybe making your way to one side or the other. And returning to your seat as you wish. And we'll bring hands to heart center and solar plexus, if you like, for the calming sound A at the heart center after inhale 3 times. A. 2 more. A. 1 more. Thank you, friends, for sharing your practice with me. Be well and be in touch if you'd like your own video. Our specials this month are dealing with one-on-one private yoga sessions and semi-privates if you like to come with a friend. Take good care.